Macro tracking. What are the mistakes you want to avoid today? We're talking about 3 of them on Protein Power. I'm Ryan Milton from Team Flex. You're on my show Protein Power every single Monday. We get on Team Flex TV and we talk about everything that is your nutrition and how to get those results. And I want you to do me a favor right now. Make sure you subscribe because this is just one of 5 shows I run all week. Every single week dedicated towards helping you get those results, alright? So helps me out when you guys subscribe. And of course, if you got extra time, share the video, give me a thumbs up, alright? Thank you so much for watching. Today we're going to dive into macro tracking and the 3 most common mistakes that come with macro tracking. As you guys know, on Team Flex, we practice a lot of macro tracking, a lot of flexible dieting, and really this allows people to choose their own foods, still get great results, and not be stuck choking down dry chunks of chicken breast and things like that, for your meal plan. You don't want to do that. Macro tracking really frees you up, lets you pick your foods, lets you get the great results, and also have a lot more variety, which I always think is better. But there still can be mistakes being made, right? And one of them, I would have to say right out the gate, let's talk about this, is going too far one way with, your flexible style foods, your kind of cheap foods, your junk foods, in a way, right? Like, people go into this macro idea, that if it fits your macros kind of thing, and they think, all right, this means everything that I eat can be pizza, it can be Oreos, it can be Pop-Tarts, it can be donuts, I don't have to eat anything else besides that, because as long as it fits my macros, I'm good to go. But in reality, the answer is no, that's not true. And on Team Flex, what we suggest is an 80-20 balance, okay? 80-20 day to day. And what this means is, you go about your food choices for the day. 80% of them are what I call the adult foods, the quote-unquote foods that you're supposed to eat that are good for you. Your proteins and your vegetables and your other kind of quote-unquote, whole foods, if you will. And then 20% of your day can be your classic cheap foods. You can fit in a slice of pizza, maybe have one of your favorite candy bars, a donut, I don't know what you want, but you can have it as long as you follow this 80-20 split. And that's kind of what we suggest as far as it goes, because it makes sure you're prioritizing all the nutrients, you're making sure you're getting all the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, all the things your body needs and wants, and then you're also still having that flexibility and that variety to, actually be able to eat some normal kind of food, some things that make you feel like you're not on a diet, that get you to be consistent longer, which is why we suggest in the first place. But yeah, the first mistake would have to be if you go too far off the rails, you go the other way and you say, all right, I'm only eating these foods. Yeah, you know what's crazy? Even if you fit them to your macros, you will still get results, but you're not going to ever feel full, you guys. You're never going to feel like you're getting satisfied, and obviously you're going to miss the entire factor of having, the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals and the things that are going to come with the kind of whole foods, if you will. So make sure that if you go about this, you know that you want to have that balance, that 80-20 split. Now, tip number 2 for macro tracking mistake would be that you don't plan in advance, okay? And this is one that I say to clients every week, honestly, probably, when we roll through check-ins or somebody's having trouble with their macros. It always comes down to not being prepared enough. Macro tracking allows you to have a lot more variety, a lot more flexibility. Yes, you can have more choices, you can eat more things, you can do things on the fly, you can go to restaurants, eat out, do whatever. You can do it and still get great results. But for the most part, if you live a busy lifestyle and you can't dedicate your whole day to trying to, figure out foods and track them into your app, it can be very difficult to actually do that on the fly. So what I suggest all the time is, hey, try to plan most of your macros out a day in advance. Simple. At the end of your day, take 5 minutes, is literally all it takes, and punch in the things you want to eat for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner the next day, whatever. I don't know how many meals you're eating, punch them in, figure it out. Get a rough idea of the things you want and make sure it's lining up with your numbers. Then you can leave yourself a little wiggle room where we can get some more of that variety food, a little bit of those, those cheap foods, if you will, in there, and no problem. And if you want to change any of these meals in the actual day, you're like, you know what, that sounded good yesterday, doesn't sound good today, change it. Take you 2 minutes. You know, it's much better though to have a plan of attack in advance to kind of fit your goals, know where you need to line up to actually get all of this done. And if you don't do this, it's a lot harder. It can still be done on the day-to-day. You can for sure sit down every meal, track it out, but it will be harder to hit your macros, and it makes the process a lot more tedious, and you know, in a lot of ways can become more frustrating, especially if you're a busy person. So I suggest planning out in advance. If you don't, that has to be the second biggest mistake. Now, the third most common mistake I see with macro tracking is one that comes up all the time with our clients, you guys. People that I bring through macros, you know, is trying to be too rigid with the clean foods. Go figure, right? It's crazy to say that, right? But people, you know, they go about the macros and they're used to doing meal plans. They're used to like chicken and rice 6 times a day, asparagus tilapia 6 times a day. They think that's the only way to eat, and then they come to macro tracking land and they try to do that same kind of thing without having the variety, without having the flexibility, without having any of that. And that can also lead to problems, because what happens, you guys, when you get drilled into one kind of method, for one, becomes very boring. Your nutrition becomes very miserable. That's no good for the mindset, no good for the consistency over time. Trust me, you will not want to do what you're doing for very long if you're choking down chicken breast 6 times a day. Now, the next thing becomes also your body does get adapted to nutrient profiles. So if you're constantly eating the same exact foods over and over and over, no flexibility, no variety, you can bet that you're missing out on some nutrients. You're missing out on some minerals. You're missing out on things that your body actually needs. And it does adapt, you guys. It's actually crazy. Your body can develop food allergies to foods you never had, you know, allergies from because of eating them too much. Happens a lot actually with chicken, with eggs, things like that. So you can actually have poor responses, bad digestive issues, all kinds of things. Not to mention your body's not going to synthesize that protein as well anymore. So a lot of things come into play when you go too rigid, too strict, too extreme. And there's also a bunch of other things that we could go into that happen to your metabolism, that happen to your hormones, all of these things. If you go too strict, you don't have this variety, you don't have this flexibility. Not to mention, you won't be able to go out with your friends, your family, you know, eat at a restaurant, do anything. Most of the time it'd be very difficult to do that. So being so rigid on the flexible dieting, you know, the macro tracking is not a good idea. You want to actually do what I say, and that's be flexible with your diet. Learn how to fit those things in you want, learn how to get that variety, and make sure you have it in the mix, and that's going to be the most beneficial to you. And if you don't think this is true, you think everything I said is too crazy, you guys, you can look at over 20,000 transformations we got, things like that, where we put people through this stuff. You can look at the competitors we have on stage to compete. They all do flexible dieting, macro tracking. I mean, this method works when you have it set up right and got it coached. So if you want to help with your nutrition, head over to my website, teamfflex.com. Check it out. We've got a free trial over there. Super awesome. You would love it. No reason not to do it. And if you don't do that, you're crazy. But also, please make sure that you still subscribe. You give me a thumbs up. Let me know what you think. More content you guys want to see on this channel, drop in the comments. Thanks for watching. Coach Ry is out.
TeamFlex.com presents a revolution in the online competition coaching experience. Contest prep has been redefined. From anywhere around the world, at the touch of a button, your entire totally custom coaching experience built just for you. Constantly monitored and adapted by your own expert competition coach. The most complete competition coaching experience awaits you now. Go to TeamFlex.com and try it free.